Our last segment concluded our crash course on genetics. In the rest of this lecture, we will explore the role of genetics in sleep. And the first question will be the most basic one of all. Is there a genetic component to our sleep patterns? How do we study this? We're going to explore the progression of these kinds of studies from the least conclusive but suggestive to the most conclusive. General heredity studies usually begin with studies that compare different species and different breeds within species. If patterns are more similar within species or breeds, but different between species or breeds, this is the first clue of a possible genetic component. Finding a genetic component in other species is not conclusive about humans, but it is suggestive. So this is a good first step and easier studies to conduct. These studies conclude that other species of animals do differ in their sleep patterns, as do breeds within species. As an example, if you want a dog that loves to sleep and sleeps a lot, the top two breeds for this trait are bulldogs and shih tzus. If animals can be successfully bred for a certain trait, this is yet another clue that the specific trait has a genetic component. In breeding studies, males and females who show high ratings on a trait are bred, and their offspring are then rated on the trait. 80% is considered a success, meaning that 80% of the offspring show that trait rating significantly higher than average. As examples, labs have been successfully bred for sociability, pit bulls for aggression, and Chesapeake Bays for loyalty. Human adoption studies are a little more difficult to do, but provide stronger evidence for humans. They are more difficult to do because it is harder to recruit a significant size sample of adopted kids than it is to round up a sample of dogs or other species. If there is a genetic component to a trait, would you expect adopted kids to more resemble their adoptive siblings on that trait or their biological siblings? Biological, right? Would you expect them to more resemble their adoptive parents or biological parents on that trait? Biological, right? This is what has been found with adoption studies. Most difficult to do, but most impressive and conclusive of all, are twin studies. To begin with, you need a large sample of monozygotic twins and a large sample of dizygotic twins. What's the difference? Monozygotic means that they came from the same egg, right? In other words, they are identical. What percentage of their DNA do monozygotic twins share? And that would be 100%. That is why they are identical. Dizygotic twins come from two separate eggs. What percentage of their DNA do dizygotic twins share? That would be about 50%, right? The same as all siblings, twins or not. So again, imagine how difficult it may be to come up with a large MZ and DZ twin sample. But you also must only include those who were raised apart from each other. This must be done to prevent the contamination of common environmental influences on twins who were raised together. Okay, so let's say you achieve this, a large enough sample of monozygotic and dizygotic twins, all raised apart. If there is a genetic component to the trait you are studying, which do you expect to be significantly more similar when measured on that trait? In other words, more correlated, monozygotic or dizygotic twins. And that would be monozygotic, right? This is what has been found with multiple twin studies, and these studies extend to sleep patterns in particular. Monozygotics resemble each other's sleep patterns significantly more than dizygotics. Because of twin studies, we have known since the 1930s conclusively that there is a genetic component to our sleep patterns. This brings us to the classic nature versus nurture question. We are well aware of myriad environmental factors that influence our sleep patterns, including caffeine, kids, meds, a snoring partner, etc. So, how much is due to genetics and how much is due to the environment? A heritability quotient, and this is oftentimes symbolized as just a lowercase h, is an estimate of the percentage of trait variation within a population that is accounted for by genetics. Computing a heritability quotient is pretty simple once you have the correlational coefficients, symbolized as lowercase r's, for the dizygotic twins and the monozygotic twins. So this is their concordance rate, how much they correlate on the trait in question. Then you just subtract the DZR, or correlation coefficient, from the MZR. Then you multiply that result by 2. So the equation is up here on the slide so you can practice it. And here's a practice one. So say your correlation coefficient, lowercase r, for MZs is 0.50, and for DZs it is 0.23. Pause the video, see if you can figure that one out, and then resume the video and compare our results. Okay, to work that out, we would have a 0.50 minus 0.23, and that equals 0.27. And we would then multiply that 0.27 by 2, and we get our heritability quotient, which is 0.54. The interpretation is that approximately 54% of the variance within that trait is accounted for by heredity, or you might say genetics. And as you can then surmise, the rest, that would be approximately 66%, is accounted for by the environment. As examples, smoking has a moderately strong heritability at 56%, and drinking much stronger at 71%. See the heritability quotients practice document posted in your to-do list for this module week if you would like more practice computing heritability quotients before your next test. Jenderson and his colleagues in 2013 determined that the estimated inheritability to date for sleep patterns is 0.34. What does that mean? It means that about 34% is genetic or inherited and about 66% environmental. And I say about because heritability differs around that mean. Some sleep patterns are higher, like whether you are a lark, hummingbird, or owl, which is somewhere between 44 and 54%. And some are lower, like how often you tend to waken during the night, and that's about 23%. Now that it is concluded that there is a genetic component to sleep patterns and how much, researchers have begun to study more specific questions about what gene or genes are involved and in what way when we're talking about sleep. And we will be exploring this work in the remainder of this lecture.